Hey everybody, this is Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies. And today it's just me again, it's just Marco. No Safi for this one, unfortunately. And I'm going to review X-Men Dark Phoenix, or should I say just Dark Phoenix. The reason why Safi isn't reviewing it is because she hasn't seen the other recent X-Men movies. She only saw X-Men 1, 2, and 3, and Logan, and that's it. So she can't really review it. Going into this movie, I have very low expectations. I wasn't looking forward to watching it at all, to be honest. And because, number one, I would say the most part is that clip, the X-Women clip. As you guys know, I'm the king of talking about agendas and forced feminism and forced diversity and just obnoxious political stuff in movies. And that clip just screamed out like, Marco, don't see this movie, it's gonna suck, you're gonna hate it. And I saw it anyway, and oh my god, I was wrong. I was dead wrong about this movie, and I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad that I didn't take the advice of the shill critics on Rotten Tomatoes and skip this movie. I'm glad that I saw it for myself and formed my own opinion. Because that's what matters nowadays, forming your own opinion, not just listening to this mob of critics on Twitter that say, ugh, this movie sucks, not enough jokes, not enough mindless CGI, not enough mindless action, not enough boring people, boring characters that nobody cares about like Marvel. You know, this movie's very different from any Marvel movie, and I think that's one of the main reasons that I loved it so much, was how refreshing it was. X-Men Apocalypse was another reason I didn't want to see this movie. X-Men Apocalypse was abysmal, and it was basically like a Marvel movie, but with a little bit more interesting elements. At certain points, like Michael Fassbender, he blows a lot of the Marvel movies out of the water with his performance in Apocalypse. And so the X-Men Apocalypse took the more generic Marvel brainless people like it direction. And then this Dark Phoenix movie took a step back and said, wait a second. What are we again? What is this series? Is this a serious series or is this just a joke? And they decided to take it in a more serious, grounded direction where everything isn't a joke and the story's good, the action is well placed, the characters are great, everything is pretty great in this movie. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it had a lot of things going against it, and just like a phoenix, it kind of rose out of the ashes with how good it was. There are a few issues with it, which I'll get into, especially in the spoilers, but overall, I want to be really positive about this movie because I'd like to see it again. I think it's like the third, maybe fourth or second, somewhere around there, one of the best X-Men movies to date. And it's not really an X-Men movie, too, which is why I like it. It's more of, you know what it really reminds me of? It reminds me of if X-Men was a TV show and if Dark Phoenix was like a monster of the week. You know, so you have like Smallville, and you have an episode where a guy has fire powers and Clark has to fight him off. That's really what this reminded me of. This did not really speak finale to me because it wasn't as much of an X-Men movie as was a Dark Phoenix movie, which I was also really surprised by and really enjoyed as well. I think if you added more elements to this movie, it would actually take away from the main story. And I think that in recent reviewing X-Men The Last Stand for myself, I really think that they chose to do the things in this movie because of that movie and how everyone said that movie was so confusing and just too many things going in it, too many characters. I think this movie took a page from that book and said, let's make it simple. Let's make it something based on character, based on these people. But there are some issues, and so I'll get into those now. Number one, it did not feel final. I already went over that. Number two, it lacked a couple of character moments that I was expecting from X-Men Apocalypse. Number three, Jessica Chastain sucked. I'll just be honest. She played an alien, and I think she was trying to act a certain way. It just did not work. I wish that she would have made more bolder choices and chose to kind of act really goofy and off the wall, like in Evil Dead. And I think that would have worked perfectly. It would have been a little funny in an odd way, and it would have been really kind of creepy. But instead, she was kind of like a robot. She could be the Terminator. From this movie, she could be the Terminator. And that's her first strike for this year is this movie because she was the worst part of it. Luckily, she didn't overcloud the movie with crap. And then number two, Jennifer Lawrence. Ugh. She hasn't been trying ever since X-Men First Class. She should never have been in the series after she started making it so she doesn't wear the blue. And good enough in this movie, actually, she wears blue for the most part, but she's just not acting well. And the lines that she says are kind of dumb. Again, the ex-women line. And they had even worse lines, though, said by Jessica Chastain, like, she's not your little girl anymore. And you know what that means, you know how that sounds in terms when you put all these lines together, and then you have words like weak and bad were created by stupid men hundreds of years ago. That was the worst line of the movie. I almost puked into my hands and almost had to go get popcorn so that I could cry in despair from the awfulness of that line. But other than that, I really don't have anything negative to say like all these other people who kind of crowd together and pretend that they're all right when really they're just kind of I don't know how to describe it like brainwashed into thinking that this isn't good. I don't know how to describe the phenomenon I'm seeing because this movie has great action. This movie actually has, I would say, the best action scenes ever since Logan. The best action scenes in the whole X-Men series, minus Logan and minus a couple in the older X-Men movies and then Deadpool. This movie's action is epic, and it holds up to your expectations of good action, not over the top Marvel Cinematic Universe action, which there's nothing wrong with Marvel. It's just that people expect superhero movies to be a certain way, and when movies like Dark Phoenix that are very refreshing come out, people usually give them negative reviews because they're not really used to seeing that type of movie. So, yeah, that's what I have to say. James McAvoy, Sophie Turner, they knock it out of the park. Especially Sophie Turner. I loved her in this movie. I'd love to see more of her. I think that she would be great in a Hammer horror movie. If they were to make a new Dracula, she would be a great actress in that movie. And also the music. Oh boy. if there was one thing in this movie to talk about, it's the music. Hans Zimmer is at his best. This music is better than a lot of the music I've heard for lots of years. When this movie started, even, when I still had doubts about it being good, the music just came up and just creeped up behind me and said, hey, this movie's gonna be good. Get ready. And the music was amazing the entire way through. It had some sci-fi elements, some horror elements. It was epic. Epic music, if anything, to take away from this movie. This movie's music is Oscar worthy. So, overall, I would give this movie well, first off, we have a plate of fatty ribs injected with hormones along with rotten potato salad and yellow corn cob that's been boiled too long and then grilled until it's black and burnt. And that is kind of my expectations going into this movie, of listening to all these people who are spreading disinformation saying it's going to be SJW and stuff like that. And then it's not the real dish. It was a fraud. It was a cloud. The real dish is an appetizer of grilled shrimp with spicy lime marinade. That represents the backstory of Jean Grey, something that was well executed against all odds. I don't usually like backstories being shoved in at the beginning of movies, but this one worked. And then we get the main dish, a filet mignon seared to perfection with a carrot salad and mashed potatoes. The filet represents the action, strong story, unbothered by dumb humor and babyishness. The salad represents Sophie Turner's performance and her surprising, refreshing flavor and character decisions, which I'll talk about that in the spoilers. The mash represents the weakest part, Jennifer Lawrence and Jessica Chastain's acting. They're okay, but aren't as good as the rest of the plate and kind of bland. They get finished fast because of small portion, and they aren't missed. And this movie isn't much of a finale, so there's no dessert, and there's no drink. So those are the two things that kind of, and the drink would represent, of course, something new, some different things that come in, because this movie stayed true to what it was at the beginning. It was very simplistic, and so a drink would kind of be an extra thing that I just did not feel was in this movie. Did not feel there were any new elements that were added from what I was expecting. Just the elements that I was expecting were done good. So that's my non-spoiler review for Dark Phoenix. Tell me what you think in the comments if you've actually seen the movie. I don't want to hear a bunch of people saying, this movie sucks, it's terrible, it's SJW, it's the worst XMen movie ever. And then I'll ask you, did you see it? You'll go like, no, I didn't see it, but I heard it was bad, so that means it's bad. Okay, everybody, I'll be back with my spoiler review. I can't wait to get into spoilers about this movie. And I can't wait to go see it again. I'm actually planning on having Safi see it. I might do a quick little review for that, for her. So goodbye, everybody. I'll see you later for spoilers.